If you've seen some of the movies I've given bad reviews to, you might know that sometimes I will get a free ticket and I will use it on these movies that I don't want to spend money for, but want to see just to review, just so I can have it out there on my channel. So I had one ticket, one free pass for a movie that expires January. So guess which movie I saw with that free ticket? Well, you're watching this video, you've clicked on it, so you know which one I used it on. It's The Bye-Bye Man. Now, I'm almost certain that all of you are aware what The Bye-Bye Man is about and what this movie is, and most of you have probably seen it or seen a lot of bad movie reviews for it. Well, mine's not going to be any different. So yes, The Bye-Bye Man is our January horror movie, our mainstream January horror movie, unless you include Underworld and Resident Evil, which really aren't much horror movies, they're more horror action. This is our January horror movie of this year. And I gotta say, I wish it was more like The Forest, and I really did not like The Forest at all. So The Bye-Bye Man is about 3 college students that rent a house. They're staying at this creepy house, and they're going to be fine. They're going to move in together. They're going to have a blast. Well, our main guy, he finds a nightstand. Inside the drawer is "Don't say it, don't think it." And he's like, okay, well, what's that about? Rips it apart, and it's the Bye-Bye Man. Turns out there's a supernatural being that kind of looks like Frankenstein in a black hoodie called the Bye-Bye Man. And apparently, if you know his name, if you say his name, if you think his name, the more you say it, the more you think it, the closer he gets to you, and eventually he's going to kill you and all your friends. And so now that he knows it, and now that he's spoken it in a seance, and now they've spoken it to other people, it is spread, and they got to find a way to contain it. They have to find a way to stop it. And that's the Bye-Bye Man. Okay, this is not going to be a 0-star movie. This is not going to be absolute 0 for me, because there are a few things I legitimately liked. For one, I have to say the house was creepy. It had an unsettling feeling to it. I feel that house had atmosphere. And maybe it's because of the proportions of the rooms and the furniture. There seemed to be a weird disproportionate factor about this house, almost looking like a dollhouse at times. There was an unsettling feeling whenever it was shot in that house. And so I have to say, at least the house had atmosphere. At least it had that going for it. Because let me say, everything supernatural, anything regarding the Bye-Bye Man or his dog was not scary in the slightest. The house was the scariest thing of this entire film, which has nothing to do with the Bye-Bye Man. Now I'll go into more detail when I get to the bad stuff of the Bye-Bye Man, because the acting was really bad for the most part. But there were a few actresses and an actor that I found were good. Carrie-Anne Moss plays a detective in this film once people start dying. She was good. She's barely in the film, but she was good whenever she was in it. And there's one scene with Faye Dunaway, and she was good as well. Those were the caliber of acting that I would have wished was the rest of the film. Now, I think most people will believe that everyone else in the movie was bad acting, save for those 2 actresses. I will disagree on one thing, and that is I feel one actor did do a good job in this film, and it was the main character. I think Douglas Smith did a good job. I think he has range. I think he has acting abilities. Some of it is a little iffy, some of it is a little kooky, but I feel that he was maybe having fun as an actor playing this character that eventually loses his mind and goes crazy. I think he has talent. I think he was entertaining, and he was the only character I actually cared about. Thankfully, he was the main character, so at least they got that right. I can see his performance being over the top for many people, and I can see some unintentionally hilarious moments with his acting, but even when it was unintentionally hilarious, it was entertaining. So he was good when he was good, and he was good when he was bad, basically. And I do like the premise of some boogeyman, some supernatural being that has power over you when you speak his name and you think his name and you fear his name. I think that's a good premise. They should make a better movie with that. Oh wait, they probably have. Yeah. What is it? Nightmare on Elm Street? Candyman? Ring any bells? So yeah, it is a good premise. Unfortunately, it's been done by way better and more classic horror films. More terrifying horror films have done a way better job than The Bye Bye Man. And with the film so riddled with jump scares that wasn't even good enough for me to jump, I have to say there was at least one jump scare in the entire batch that I found effective. And I won't spoil it, but if you've seen the movie and you're curious which jump scare had me jumping, I'll tell you in the comments. But it's just one was effective, everything else was total trash. And that's pretty much it. There were a few moments here and there that were unintentionally hilarious, and so I found those entertaining. That's the reason I really still wanted to see it. Not only to do a movie review about it, not only because I had a free ticket, but everything I heard about it and all these scenes that were mentioned from this movie, I thought, wow, maybe this could be a so bad it's good film. Unfortunately, it was not the case for me. Even though there is unintentional comedy in this film that is just downright baffling and amazing, most of the things that other people talked about weren't all that funny once I watched the film. It's almost like it's one of those films where there's unintentional hilarity within it. But it's much funnier hearing people talk about it and talking about it rather than watching it. Now let's get into the bad, because unfortunately there is way too much bad about this film. First of all, other than those three actors that I mentioned, everyone else was downright horrible. But there was one that was way worse than all the rest, and that was the girlfriend of our main character. Now, I don't want to be terrible towards this actress because I don't know what else she's done or what other movies she's been in, but I'm just judging it from this movie alone, and she feels like another, God, what's her name? She feels like another Kristen Stewart. Like, I'm not joking. She feels like she's an actress, or at least in this movie, her character, her acting, one expression throughout the entirety. And it wasn't even a unfazed expression like Kristen Stewart did in other countless films. It was like an expression of fear or confusion. It's like, it was a different expression in each scene, but it's like for one scene she would just have the same expression the entire scene. And I have heard that she is a British actress. She does have an accent, and unfortunately it definitely shows in the movie where she's trying to have an American accent, and she goes into the British accent every so often with little words and little phrases. Now, there was one actress that was so bad she was hilarious, and I think she was actually a comedic actress. She feels like it in this movie, so I don't know too much about her. She plays this librarian in the film, and I have to say, she feels like a comedian trying to do a horror movie while still being comedic, despite the lines not being comedy. It's almost like she has that comedic tone throughout every scene she's in, as if she's trying to be a comedian, trying to have comedy and add comedy to the film, when the lines aren't really jokes, they're not meant to be funny, and it's just, it's definitely entertaining to watch, but it feels like it doesn't fit this movie whatsoever. Unless you're one of those people that believes that this is made to be a self-aware parody. But I have to say, I really don't feel it's a self-aware parody. If you believe it, that is completely fine. But for me, this movie is so generic, that it doesn't feel like it's trying to be funny by being generic. It just feels like it's so by the numbers and so generic, and there's so many movies in horror films, in genre pieces, that have just been plain generic. Are those self-aware parodies as well? I don't think so. This just feels like a really, really bad movie. Now there are unintentionally hilarious moments, and I can see people feeling that with those moments it feels like it's self-aware parody, but it just feels like the director, the writer, the people involved with the film just didn't know what the heck they were doing and just threw it in there. Like there's a scene. Now I wasn't alone in the theater. I went by myself because I only had one free ticket, but there were 4 teenagers in the film in the screening with me, and it was 2 couples, and I just love what they said, like when this scene happened, because there's a scene. It's continually, constantly showing this train with the same angles, the same camera angles, the same length of a scene where a train comes in, then you see the front of the train coming in, and then you see the perspective from the train looking at the train tracks and scattered clothes and scattered debris and stuff as it's going across. Well, one moment it decides to do something a little different despite all this repetitive stuff. Instead, when it shows the view of the train, showing it going down the tracks, suddenly you just see our 3 main characters with their backs turned to the train, butt naked, and I'm telling you, butt naked, all you see, and it's just like their butts were in center frame of the film, and it's just like, what? Right after that mooning scene, it goes silent, and I hear someone from one of the couples just yell out, "What the hell are we watching?" They stuck it in there. They stayed all the way through the credits, I believe, because as soon as the credits started rolling, I was out of there. But they were still in there, just sitting there, probably in amazement of, what the hell did we just watch and spend money for? It seems like that you think, okay, maybe it is self-aware, but the rest of the film is just like not like that. There's like little glimpses of like really ridiculous moments that are just unintentionally hilarious, but you think they're so bad that they gotta be intentional. But then the rest of the film is nothing on the level of these little specks of moments. The CGI in this movie was awful. And I've seen worse, okay? I've seen worse with much more serious movies. And that's why I don't feel that just the bad CGI alone makes it a self-parody and makes it intentional. Because I've seen, like I said, I've seen worse CGI in completely serious movies. And this is still really, really bad CG. With the dog, looks horrible. The moment when Carrie-Anne Moss, when they're imagining her with blackened eyes and black ooze dripping from her, that looked horrible. There's this moment where out of nowhere, for no reason, because no character is in the hallway, it's just the camera showing this wallpaper which I believe is a dog, and then the head of that dog turns into the monster dog, and it just turns and looks at the camera. The only thing with CGI that looked okay was when the dog was in the dark, and that was one moment in the entire film. Almost every other time you see the dog in bright light, and it just looks awful. Oh, and there's this other really terrible CGI with this fire, this person catching fire, and it was horrible. Oh, and another bad acting. Now, I heard there was a kid in the film, and I heard it was a really bad child actor. Like, just didn't fit the movie, wasn't doing good. But then again, a lot of people were just bad acting anyway. And when it first shows her, I'm like, hey, this kid's not bad. She's fine. She's completely fine. Then we get to the last scene. Feels like a totally different child actor. There's this one moment where the house is on fire, okay? This house is on fire, and she's looking, she's like, oh no, it's on fire! It's just, oh my god. Oh my god. something really horrible happens, and then the car ride home, the kid's sort of joking around. It's like, I couldn't read it, Daddy. I got a flashlight. I mean, that's kind of spoilerish, but you don't know what it means unless you've seen the movie. Like every horror scene, it's clear that it was meant to be horrifying. It was meant to be scary. They're dead serious with it. But there's something not quite right with each scene. Like, have you ever seen a scene, this is going to sound like an oxymoron, but have you ever seen a scene that's meant to be serious or meant to be horrific, clearly meant to be so, but is almost shot like a comedy, unintentionally shot like a comedy? That's what almost every horror scene in this film feels like. And so I could see them mistaking it as, oh, this is self-aware, this is supposed to be comedy. But it's almost like it's shot like a comedy without meaning to be shot like a comedy. It's really strange. At least that's what I got out of it. And what I really hate about this film is we don't get the backstory of the Bye Bye Man. Now look, you can have a supernatural being with no backstory and still be good. But there's one thing that they have to be in order to still be good and not have backstory. They have to be freaking scary. They have to be intimidating. They have to be so completely evil and terrifying that you don't care about the backstory because you're still scared of them. The Bye Bye Man is not that. And so it's really baffling when they give us little clues, like trying to piece together a backstory and why he's doing this, because you get what he's doing in order to kill these people, and you can almost think that them committing suicide to try to escape it might be all of his master plan anyway, as long as he leaves a little hint that for someone else to find. So you can get what he's doing, but the reason of why he is doing it is never understood. Why with the train, why with the coins, never explained. You have a little bit of sort of explanation with a coin because there's this quote before, and it's not even a bye-bye, it's not even referencing the Bye Bye Man, it's just our main character finds a poem or a quote for some sort of author or something about coins being fortune, and maybe that's what it means, is maybe the coin has to deal with fate and fortune, but it's such a convoluted mess that I don't feel like that's what the whole meaning is. And as for the train, it's just, if you hear a coin and you hear a train, it means he's close. Okay, well why? Did he die on a train? Was he a train driver? Was he a hobo on the train with his dog and then they died in a train wreck? What the heck happened? And if so, why do they want to kill people for knowing his name? It's almost like they decided, oh, we'll give you little hints, but we won't explain it. We won't give you enough detail to be able to speculate anything. And we'll save it for the sequel. Yeah, that's right. We'll save it for the sequel because clearly everyone's going to go see the Bye Bye Man. Money, money, money. I think there are a few people that could legitimately like this as a so bad it's hilarious movie and like it that way. And if you feel this is a self-parody, despite its genericness and feeling like the genericness might be self-reference and self-awareness, then you might have a fun time with the Bye Bye Man. And if you're a teenager that has never seen a horror movie in your entire life or only seen PG-13 movies and never seen any of the classic movies like A Nightmare on Elm Street or Candyman, then you might find the Bye Bye Man to be a very terrifying movie. You might. And don't get me started with psychological horror, because this is technically a psychological horror. He does mess with people's minds. And there are people that love psychological horror, and that's not wrong to do so, because I love psychological horror. But there's some people that just the fact of you trying to guess whether it's real or not is just enough for them to say, oh, best movie ever made. So if you argue, oh, it's not about the Bye Bye Man, it's about whether what's real and what's not, and him going insane, and us figuring out, is this real or is this not? The problem is, when you believe you know everything, and you know what's real, and you know what's right, and you know when the Bye-Bye Man is messing with you, and you know when things are truly happening, then the psychological horror element has completely failed on you. Never once did I feel that I was tricked. Well, there was one time in this entire movie where it tricked me. Everything else in this movie, I knew when it was a dream, when it was a hallucination, when it was real. It was way too obvious. And the one time it actually tricked me was towards the end. I won't spoil it, but it felt like such a cheap way to trick me. It was so cheap, it was baffling, and I'm not even going to count it. Because there's something about the way they set it up that was so definite, so clear, so 100% this person and this person and this person is this person, and then they switcheroo it at the last second when it makes no sense. And I get, oh, it's supposed to lead you to believe something when something else is happening. I get that's what it's supposed to be. But you can do it in a smart way and one that makes sense, or you can do it in a cheap way where it doesn't make sense. And it did it in a cheap way that felt like I said, it felt like it was cheated, basically. But anyway, for most of us, The Bye-Bye Man is going to be one of the worst horror movies you see this January. Well, it might be the only horror movie this January. So, yeah, that's a very easy thing to say. This might be a little too high for it, but I'm going to give The Bye-Bye Man 1 star. So, did you see The Bye-Bye Man? Did you even bother? Go ahead and comment below. What'd you think about it? If you liked this video and you want to see more, please subscribe. Check out my movie reviews. I got movie reviews of 2015, 2016, and hopefully more for 2017. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.